welcome to our service today. And we are going to have a little bit of fun in the spirit of Halloween and the season that is upon us. And I'd like to start off with a joke. A witch's werewolf has a problem, so he takes it to the vets. The vet looks at the werewolf and says that he'll have to take him into the examining room. In the examining room, he takes a black cat out of a cage and lets the black cat walk all over the werewolf. But the werewolf doesn't do anything. The doctor says, "Your werewolf is dead." The witch goes out to the receptionist and asks for her bill. "That'll be $600 and $666, says the receptionist. "What? 666? How's that possible?" "It's $66 for the consultation and $600 for the CAT scan." Just had to start off with a little witchy humor for our holiday. Today's talk is called The Masks That We Wear. And today we will briefly discuss sometimes the invisible mask as well as physical masks that we wear. We will then go into a two-part ritual, which is in alignment for today's daily word, I am spirit in action. As our ritual will assist us in taking action in our lives to see each other as shining lights and to release a mask or veil that keeps us from showing up to the world authentically. I love technology. So, Happy New Year. We have collectively entered into a time of the year that is a time of renewal and the beginning of a new year. One usually doesn't associate the season of autumn as a time of new beginnings, as we are beginning to wind down as the days grow shorter and the time of darkness grows. In the southern hemisphere, it is spring. So there is a balance of the new beginnings all around the world. As they grow shorter and the nights grow longer, between now and the end of January, several different faith traditions have annual festivals of light. They have movable dates, marking the new year and new cycle for their culture beyond the linear calendar. These New Year's celebrations are based on the harvest and lunar cycles. Last month, the Jewish tradition had their Jewish New Year, which is Rosh Hashanah, and also celebrated Yom Kippur. And then this month, they also have two other major celebrations at this time that goes on with the harvest. And you will note that there are sweets and there are apples and goodies. And you notice that those are some of the same things that we have at this time of the year too. So you will see a progression here of some of the things that have been adopted and brought into our celebration. Next, we have last week, there was the Festival of Light from Diwali, which is a new year, and that is celebrated with the Hindus, for the Sikh, and for the Jain traditions. They're all very, very similar. And their celebration is about celebrating the light, and it goes for 5 days, and it also celebrates the harvest. And so they have lots of lights, and they have lots of color, and it's very, very similar to some of our celebrations that we have. And then we come to our American celebration, not completely all American. The Celtic and the Wiccan faith traditions celebrate the new year on Halloween, and it runs until the next day for All Souls Day, also known as All Saints Day. For some of the beginning, and for some of us, with the beginning of school comes a new calendar cycle. And then we go throughout that the entire rest of this year, the new cycles for the calendar. And as I said before, many of the elements that are found in the other faith traditions are the basis and traditions that have turned out to be our Halloween. And also in the Celtic tradition, it is Samhain. It does not look like Samhain would be coming from that word, but that's what it is. And it is always celebrated the same time that we celebrate Halloween. Other than being a time of celebration and having lots of fun, it is also a good time to do some spiritual inner work and to observe and release what does not serve you, and you don't carry it into the new year. This is a special time of the veil being thin between the different realms, and our ancestors are very present, and they are here to assist us in releasing what no longer serves. It is often said that if you feel the presence of someone, or if you were thinking of someone who has crossed to the other side, it's not your imagination. It is a time where your loved ones reach out to you and connect with you in many different ways. It's also a fun time to connect, even if you choose not to do any inner work, just to have that extra time with your loved ones so near to your heart and so close by. They're always happy to connect with us all year round, but this is a very special time. Many of you may know Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. It has always been ever since I can remember as a little girl. And when I was growing up, we would begin planning out our costumes during the summer because my mom used to sew all of our costumes. Okay. And so there were many years that my costume did not involve a specific mask. I didn't like the masks. They bothered me. I couldn't see. You couldn't breathe through them. You know, the old-fashioned ones that are up there, you just couldn't. I don't know. You know, we always had to end up cutting the holes bigger, too. But I preferred not to hide behind a mask. I wanted to be outside of the mask because I felt like as a child, I spent a lot of time hiding behind other things. And so for me, Halloween was a time where I could come out and be myself one day a year without anybody having any problems with that or questioning it. This was my favorite costume. I was a witch several years in a row.
And ruby lips, sparks pop from her fingertips. Echoes voices in the night. She's a restless spirit on an endless ride. Ooh, witchy woman, see how high she flies. Ooh, witchy woman, the moon in her eyes. Yeah. Thank you for the impromptu on that. As you well know, I was a child of the 60s and the 70s, so I grew up with that song, and it happened to be one of my favorites. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I figured out why. The clues were always there, always there. When I was younger, I used to choose my costumes without the mask from characters from books because I didn't necessarily like the ones that were available. So I just decided to do something differently. Now when I select a costume, I like to make sure it's still not doing anything. Now when I select costumes, I like to look at my alter ego and decide what part of me wants to come out today or this year. And in the past, you have seen me as the witch, and that is still my favorite one, especially when I can go full-blown in green makeup and everything, because in The Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West was the good witch, not the witch of the East. Oh. You have to see the second part to to learn that one. And one of the reasons why I like to dress about my alter egos is that our personalities and our wholeness of who we are, we're like a multifaceted diamond that has many, many faces and shapes. And each one of those facets to the diamond or the crystal makes it whole. So I like to give an opportunity for my personality to express itself when it can't express itself all the time. And so I love picking up my costumes now. I wanted to be a mermaid, but it's kind of hard to walk around when you have the little tail on there, but maybe next year. One of the things I like about dressing up as an alter ego is it's also an opportunity to have a mirror image about that alter ego. We can look in the mirror, but how many times do you look in the mirror and you look beyond your eyes or beyond your face? When you have a costume and you can take a picture of it or look at yourself in a different way with that on, it really, really does give you the opportunity to see something about yourself and explore that without judgment and with having a little bit of fun. And I find, too, that when you have the photographs or when you're looking in the mirror, it's a lot easier when you have your costume on than if you're just doing straight mirror work without anything else to give the depth and dimension to it. So let's talk a little bit about the invisible, energetic mask that we sometimes wear in our everyday life. It's part of who we are, it's how we operate and how we live. So we are going to go over when did we start wearing them, what purpose do they serve, negative and positive, and how do I stop hiding behind my mask so that I may see myself and others authentically so I can see them as light beings. We are born without mask or veils. We are born as pure love and innocence. And we are born from love as love. No mask or veils are needed because when we are born, we are the pure essence of our light being, and we are the mirror image of God. We are still connected with God, so there is no separation of any kind. There is nothing but pure love. And this is my lovely little granddaughter. Who's 6 now, but it just, for me, it just reminds me, I just gush every time I see that picture because it is truly a reminder of the God beings that we are, the little godlings we are. Energetic masks and veils begin to be placed upon us as children. In the book of the Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz calls this process domestication. And it is where we are told how to be, how to dream, based on the society and others' wants for us. So when we are small children, we can look in a mirror, but we don't understand what looking in a mirror is. So the way that we know who we are and what we look like is by what our parents tell us, what our friends tell us, what people in our community tell us. For some people, it might even be what the church tells us. And everybody has their own perspective and their own lens. Some of it may be true, some of it may not. But we don't know as children. We just don't know what's really the truth and what isn't. And that's part of our journey and our evolution is to figure that out. During the process of domestication or human conditioning, we form an unrealistic image of perfection, all so that we can be liked and accepted by everybody. My first imperfection was my Barbie. I can remember wanting to look like Barbie, and then I realized I'm never going to look like her. She's got blonde hair. God love my parents. They found a Barbie with brown hair. I was elated. But it had blue eyes instead of brown eyes like me. And I spent a good part of my youth trying to be like a model or Barbie or whatever. And social media, stores, everywhere you go, you can't get away from unrealistic role models of what you think you should be or not be. And it's really a disservice, and I wish I had a way to figure out how to undo all of that. When I do, I'll give you another talk. When we don't fit this unreal image, we begin to judge ourselves by these images. And that is how we begin creating the masks, the ones that we hide behind, the ones that sometimes are physical, the ones that are also invisible. So why do we wear our masks and energetic veils? Our masks allow us to outwardly express our inner landscape in a way that makes us feel safe and to be seen authentically sometimes. In others, it is to hide our authentic self and our feelings and emotions as a form of protection from a perceived or potential harm. Some masks are also worn to remind us of the divinity that we know we are deep inside, but we sometimes forget. I know one of the masks that I like to hide behind is my makeup and my hair. When I'm speaking, of course, I want to present myself because I don't think I would be as effective in my jammies and my stay-home working outfit on Monday morning. Wouldn't be quite as effective. But one of the things that I do when I hide behind my makeup and my hair is when I'm having a really crappy day and I don't want to get out of bed and I don't want to do anything, I get my butt out of bed and I dress to the hilt and to the nines, because when I go into this mask, it helps me shift my energy and helps me get into that place that I would like to be to have a good day and to function. So sometimes when we have masks, there is a very good reason for putting one on energetically. There are times too that I hide behind my makeup because I don't want anybody to see that I am human, that I am not perfect, that I make mistakes and I have faults like everybody else. Because my ego loves to think it doesn't. So I always got to try and keep it in check. People rarely share their own real face to others. We all have a mask that we put out in front of others. In fact, there is a Japanese saying that goes, we all have 3 faces. The first face you show to the world. The second face you show to your close friends and your family. And the third face you never show anyone. It is the truest reflection of who you are. And I believe that that is very, very much true, and I think that's how we show up in the world. I know that at home, I show up differently than I do in public. And when I'm in private, then I really allow myself to really be myself that I don't want everybody to see. I don't like it when I have meltdowns, but I do. And that is certainly something that I do not want people in public to see or perceive, because there's really no purpose for that. However, I have to honor that and I have to own it, because it's a part of who I am, and it's one of those facets to that jewel and to that crystal. And to deny that and to not express it in some form that is constructive, it is to splinter my soul and to not be whole. And I spent a good part of my life doing that, thinking that good little girls have to be a certain way, good women have to be a certain way, you have to behave on this. And I'll tell you, it felt like prison. It was awful. So in private, I will look at those things and honor them so that I can be whole and complete. Now we're going to go into some of the other purposes for wearing our masks. Sometimes it's part of our work. Sometimes it's necessary to wear a mask so that we can protect our bodies, especially from getting germs or dust or airborne things into our bodies that will make us sick. So sometimes it is a requirement. Sometimes we don't have a choice unless you want to quit the job that requires you to put on the mask. Another type of work, sometimes shamans will wear a ceremonial mask to protect them from evil and spirits during rituals or ceremony. Sometimes they also do it to invoke the presence and the energy of the mask that they are wearing. And it allows them to place their personality and their ego aside so that they can fully step into the role that they are playing for the ceremony or for the healing that they are offering as their work. And this one is one that was from the silent auction. And this is really a great mask. It comes from Ghana, and I found out that this is a mask that is worn by shamans during harvest ceremonies. So when I saw that, I was so excited that that mask fit perfectly with the time of year that we're celebrating. So thank you, Nina. Once the ceremony and the ritual is finished, the mask is taken off and the energy is then severed. And that is very much important because too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. And so you only want to use the power that is invoked during the ritual or the ceremony and then put it aside until the next time you need it. Or if you're not going to be doing that again, then you would pass it on to someone else who can use it. But it's very, very important to keep some of our masks very sacred that we use because of the purpose that they serve. Now, okay. Sometimes people wear a mask, as I have already alluded to, because it is an outward expression of their personality that they don't normally get to express on an everyday basis, or they may not be comfortable with it. And again, as I said before, some people think that when I dress up as a witch on Halloween that I'm in costume. It's the one day of the year or time of the year that I can really let my hair down and be me and not have to worry about the ramifications of that. I grew up in a family that did not understand some of the gifts that I have and some of the things that resonate with me. And my mother had them, and people didn't understand them, and so she was drugged and she was hospitalized. And I had a fear for the longest time that this was going to be my fate and my path. And it actually prevented me from doing my work. Mom is now an ancestor. And I find that now that Mom and Dad are both on the other side, I am much freer to step into my work and to do what I need to do without the ramifications that will come from misunderstandings from my family. And I no longer have to fear having the same things done to me that were done to other people. And it has been an amazing freedom. And I also find now that my parents help me with my work, which is wonderful because I was connected to them when they were here, but now that they are on the other side, I'm even more connected because they're more available to me now than they ever were when I was a child growing up because of some of the issues that they had going on. So, as I already mentioned, masks are a great mirror of our emotions that are not normally recognized in the mirror. Sometimes we avoid looking at them. We can look in the mirror again and not really see them or not understand what those emotions were about. So as I was preparing for a talk, I had a friend come over and photograph me in some different masks, and I actually evoked the emotion that came up with those so that I could have documentation of what my fears look like. This one for me represents anger and jealousy. And for me, it is one of the ugliest ways that my fear shows up and that I look, or I perceive how I look. I try not to judge anymore, but I finally decided to own it. I have a jealous streak and I have an angry streak. Thank goodness I don't act out on them anymore, but they are part of who I am. And I'm actually happy to claim that because I don't have to live or act from that place. One of the things that I do when I can remind myself about these emotions is when I feel them, then I can know that this means I have to go back into my heart space, go back to a place of love. Because if I'm feeling the way I'm looking up there, I'm not in my heart, I'm in fear. And the last thing I want to do is spread fear. This little lovely mask is my, oh, wrong one. Okay. This one is the mask I call depression, chaos, frustration, self-destruction, and anger. And it is a very, very strong one and a very, very powerful one. And again, those are all parts of me that I don't like, but they are all parts of me that make me. And so I wanted to share this with you because I do have humor in there too. There is the laughter. It might look like insanity, but there is laughter in being in the mask and in being able to see it. And I like to be able to laugh and joke about myself because it helps me stay light and it helps me to not take life too seriously. And that mask is going to get tucked away. I don't want to have to deal with it anytime soon, but it's part of the journey. So this next one I had a little bit of fun with. This is my bat one for when I'm going batty and feeling a little afraid and a little crazy. We all have our bats in the belfry sometimes. And so I got to really see how I look when fear first starts to set in. And when I'm apprehensive, I want to reach out, but I'm not quite there, and I'm just a little too afraid to. So that one was kind of telltale. I was kind of surprised, especially on the corner next to the laughter one. I was just kind of taken back by that a little bit, but it's who I am. And then, of course, having masks reminds us to have some fun and reminds us to get silly and to have a good laugh and to just do crazy things. It was so funny because in the picture where my eyes are crossed, Mom always told me, don't cross your eyes, they're going to stick that way. And I believed her, and let me tell you, that was one of those things that really crushed me down as a kid because it prevented me from having fun in other areas because I was afraid what it was going to do. So I actually had a hard time getting myself to do that because those muscles aren't trained to do that. But I'm one of these people, because I'm so intense and I can go in very, very deep, I have a hard time having fun and keeping things light. So in response, Melvin, boo. And I have learned that making fun of myself and having fun is okay, as long as it's not done in a mean way and it's done in good spirit and with kindred fellow who are in the same intention and the same way. I also wanted to point out that sometimes when I get really nervous, I will laugh, and it may not be a funny situation. When my parents were getting very, very violent domestically, I would laugh my butt off. And then, of course, well, what are you going to laughing about? I'm going to give you something to laugh about. It was just a way that I coped with a stressful situation. So it was another one of those places where I used the mask for protection. And not everybody does, but we all have our own ways that we use them. This one was one that I was a little shy about. It's actually one of the sugar skeleton skull masks cut out. And when had that one on, I went into being shy and mysterious, and again, a little bit withdrawn. I wanted to engage, but wasn't quite comfortable. And I think some of you may be surprised that sometimes I have a hard time engaging and socializing because I'm a very social, extroverted type person. But there are moments where I have to give it all of my all just to go out and talk to somebody or even call them on the phone. And so I was kind of interested to see how this one was. This definitely, I wanted to feel protective, but then I was also wanting to honor I can't pronounce it, but I wanted to honor the Day of the Dead celebration. So that's why I did the one with the crossed over hands. But again, it was just an opportunity to see myself in a different way that I had not seen before and to see what comes up with it. And I noticed that when I feel really down on myself and my esteem is low, this is kind of how that mask feels like it would look if it were present. Okay. This was my favorite mask. And it was also the scariest one when I saw the photographs. And this represents how you can be comfortable with part of yourself and presenting yourself out to the world, but then you still have this mask covering up parts of you that you don't want anybody to see. Underneath the mask, my friend who was doing the photographs had put scars on there to represent my shame, my guilt, the sins that had been placed upon me, the sins that I had committed that I hadn't fully let go of yet. I hid it. And the interesting thing is, I hid with that mask what I thought was my positive and my better side of my face. So that was an interesting journey. But I've also gotten to a place where I'm ready to take off that mask completely. So the next thing I decided to do was, I'm going to take off the mask, I'm going to feel vulnerable, and see how it feels to be exposed. Anything that I'm still carrying and holding on to. And in that moment, I was able to see the beauty with the scars and the makeup and the layers of the things that I carry around. I did not see my friend putting my makeup on. I didn't even know what I looked like until I developed the pictures on my computer and got to look at them. And I thought, wow, what an amazing experience. So then I decided, well, I'm going to drop this mask. So I did one of the mic drop things, but it was a mask instead. And it felt so good and so freeing to not have anything hidden or covered up. And I'm going, I want to share this feeling with other people and encourage other people to do the same thing. It's hard. It's really hard to be vulnerable in front of somebody when you're really, really tender. But there is so much freedom in just being you, who you really are. It's amazing. One of the other things that we do with our masks is, for me at least, I like to put on masks and things to remind me of my divinity, because I forget. I forget very, very frequently that I'm a divine child of God. I do affirmations, I listen to positive music, I do all kinds of things, and I still forget. So that's why I like to have my pictures done a lot. That's why I have a love affair with the camera and all of the things that I do. I do that so that I always have a reminder for when I forget. And I don't forget as often, but I still do. I still do. And I also think it's fun to share your light and to just put it on and just flood it out everywhere. And everything shifts when you do that. One of the things that I'm going to be developing is I'm going to be creating some angel wings and some other props. And next year I'm going to start photographing people in their divine self and form so that they have a reminder that they can have with them. So stay tuned on that. I've got some artists that are going to be helping me with making my props. Oops. So one of the things I would like to encourage for each one of you is to strive to live each day from a place of authenticity and the love and the shining light that you were born as. Sorry, my contacts, I can't read my small print on there. And I was inspired by this other quote from the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. What really matters is to be what you really are, to be authentic, to enjoy life, and to be love. Love is your nature. Don't resist what you really are. Powerful words, easy on the surface, difficult to do underneath. But that is our challenge, is to remove any barrier that we have to remembering that we are love and to sharing that love. So what I would like to do is a brief ritual with you, and we have a two-part ritual today. The first one is going to be with our masks, and what I would like for us to do, you can either use the string and put it on your head, but if it doesn't fit or you don't want to mess up your hair, hold up our mask, and what I would like for you to do is look around at your neighbors, and I want you to not focus on the face. I want you to look at each other eye to eye and not look at the personality, but I want you to see people's inner light and their love that they are. So we'll just take a couple minutes to do that.
You are the face of God.
Sorry.
I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God.
Sweetie, you're prettier.
I
Get
hold
pictures
you
of that
in
right now.
my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of love. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of love. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.
Thank you, everyone, for shining your lights and for sharing your light and your love. All of you are so incredibly beautiful. I hope that you can see that in yourselves as you see it in others, because I see the beautiful light and the beautiful souls that all of you are. So we have a second part to our ritual today. And this is letting go of the mask. So maybe there's been some thoughts percolating. Maybe there's a part of you that you don't want to hide behind anymore. And I'm giving you the opportunity to infuse this part into your mask. And then if you are ready to release a veil or a mask that you're hiding behind, I invite you to somehow just hold it and infuse that into your mask. And you will notice that I have cauldrons, because it wouldn't be a witch without a cauldron. And whatever it is that you would like to release, if you would like to, just place it in the cauldron. It's tissue for fire because, well, I don't want to call the fire department in. However, after the ceremony, the service is over, I am going to be taking those masks and running them through a paper shredder. So, gone. Once you let it go, can't pick it back up. It's gone. Now, I understand this might be difficult. It's not always easy to let go of something that's been a part of you for a very long time, because it's comfortable. And it's uncomfortable to let it go and not knowing what's going to replace it or what's going to come up next. So if you're not comfortable in letting something go, I invite you to hold onto your mask and keep it. And you can use that as a mirror to reflect something, or maybe as a seed that has been planted of something that you might work towards releasing at some other time that might be appropriate for you. And we can go ahead and do that now. And I'm just going to do a really brief meditation. You can just... So if you are wanting to release anything, go ahead and hold the mask in your hands. Or if you want to put it up to your face, you can do that. Doesn't have to be anything extensive. All you have to do is just come in contact with your mask and put the energy in there of whatever that veil is that you wish to release. And when you're ready, if you are, you can place a mask in the cauldron.
I release and I let go. I let spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. There's no more here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the spirit. There's no more here for God. I release and I let go. I let spirit run my life. And my heart
And so this brings the end of my talk. Happy Halloween or Samhain. My wishes for you: when you are lonely, I wish you love. When you are down, I wish you joy. When you are troubled, I wish you peace. When things look empty, I wish you hope. May you be surrounded by happiness, peace, and joy always, and wishing you a very happy new year.